The Dassault Mirage F1 is a French fighter and attack aircraft designed and built by Dassault Aviation as a successor of the Mirage III family. The Mirage F1 entered service in the French Air Force in 1974. Powered by a single SNECMA Atar turbojet providing about 7 tons force of thrust, the F1 has been used as a light multi-purpose fighter and has been exported to about a dozen nations. More than 720 F1s have been produced. Design and development. Dassault designed the Mirage F1 as a private venture, using its own funds, as a successor to its Mirage III and Mirage V fighters, with the F1 being a smaller version of the Mirage F2 being developed for the French Air Force. It was of similar size to the delta-winged Mirage III and V, and was powered by SNECMA Atar 9K turbojet is used in the Dassault Mirage IV. But unlike its predecessors, it shared the layout of a swept wing mounted high on the fuselage and a conventional tail surface as used by the F2. Although it has a smaller wingspan than the Mirage III, the F1 nevertheless proved to be superior to its predecessor. It can carry up to 43% more fuel, has a shorter takeoff run and better maneuverability. The first prototype made its maiden flight on the 23rd of December 1966. Despite the prototype crashing on the 18th of May 1967 due to flutter, killing its pilot, an order for 3 prototypes was placed on the 26th of May 1967, the larger and more expensive F2 being abandoned, in order to comply with the French Air Force's requirement for an all-weather interceptor. The first production Mirage F1C was equipped with a Thomson CSF Serrano IV monopulse radar. The later Serrano IV1 version added a limited look-down capability. However, Mirage F1 pilots reported that the radar can easily overheat, reducing its efficiency. First deliveries to the French Air Force took place in May 1973, entering squadron service with EC-230th Normandy Neiman in December that year. Initially, the aircraft was armed with 2 internal 30mm cannons, and a single Matrona of 530 medium-range air-to-air missile carried under the fuselage. It was replaced after 1979, when the improved Matra Super 530F entered into service with the French Air Force. In 1977, the R550 Magic was released. The F1 has these missiles mounted on rails on the wingtips. Around the same time, the American AIM-9 Sidewinder became part of the Mirage F1's armament, after the Spanish and Hellenic Air Forces requested integration of the Sidewinder on their own Mirage F1 CE and CG fighters. The 79 aircraft of the next production run were delivered during the period March 1977 to December 1983. These were of the Mirage F1 C200 version, with a fixed refueling probe, which required an extension of the fuselage by 7 cm. The Mirage F1 served as the main interceptor of the French Air Force until the Dassault Mirage 2000 entered service. Operational history. France. French Air Force Mirage F1s were first deployed operationally in 1984 during Operation Manta, the French intervention in Chad, to counter growing Libyan encroachment. 4 Mirage F1 C200s provided air cover for a force of 4 Jaguars, and took part in skirmishes against the pro-Libyan GUNT rebels. In 1986, French Mirage F1s returned to Chad as part of Operation Epavir, with 4 F1 C200s providing fighter cover for a strike package of 8 Jaguars during the air raid against the Libyan airbase at Wadi Doum. On the 16th of February Two F-1CRs also flew pre- and post-strike reconnaissance missions. In response to the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait, France made 2 deployments of Mirage F-1s to the Persian Gulf, with 12 Mirage F-1Cs being deployed to Doha in Qatar in October 1991 to boost air defenses, while 4 Mirage F-1CRs of Er-33 deployed to Saudi Arabia as part of Operation TSgt in September 1991. To avoid the risk of being mistaken for Iraqi Mirage F-1s, the French F-1CRs were grounded during the first few days of the Allied air attacks, flying the first combat mission on 26 January 1991. They were used as fighter bombers, using the more capable navigation systems to lead formations of French Jaguar fighter bombers, as well as to fly reconnaissance missions, flying 114 sorties by the end of hostilities. Following the end of the Persian Gulf War, France deployed Mirage F-1CRs to Turkey as part of Operation Provide Comfort to protect Kurds from Iraqi aggression. In November 2004, and in response to an Ivorian air attack on French peacekeepers, 3 Mirage F-1 jets attack Yamoussoukro Airport and destroy 2 Su-25 aircraft and 3 attack helicopters. In October 2007, 3 Mirage 2000s and 3 Mirage F-1s were deployed at Kandahar Air Force Base, where they flew close air support and tactical reconnaissance missions in support of international forces in southern Afghanistan. The last French unit to still be equipped with the Mirage F-1 was the Escadron de Reconnaissance 233rd Savoie, home-based at Mont-de-Marsan, flying the latest version of the F-1CR. The unit's primary mission was tactical reconnaissance with a secondary mission of ground attack. Because of the unique missions of the 233rds, their unofficial motto among the pilots has become, "Find, Identify, and Photograph or Destroy." Quote, in accordance with a bilateral defense agreement between France and Chad, 2 233rds F-1CRs, along with 3 pilots, a photo interpreter, an intelligence officer and ground crews are always deployed to N'Djamena, Chad. The 2 233rds F-1CRs operated with 3 Mirage 2000Ds, also based on rotation from France to Chad. In March 2011, 233rds Mirage F-1CRs were deployed to Solenzara Air Base, Corsica, and conducted reconnaissance missions over Libya as part of Operation Harmattan. In 2013, and 233rds F-1CRs also participated in Operation Serval in Mali. On 10 January, launching from the base in N'Djamena in Chad, the first French air intervention mission against Islamist rebels in Mali was undertaken by F-1CRs and Mirage 2000Ds, supported by a French Air Force C-135K tanker. The 233rds F-1CRs provided valuable photo information for strike aircraft flying the next day from France. Later on 16 January, 2 233rds F-1CRs were deployed from Chad to Bamako, Mali. Both aircraft were fitted with extra long-range 2,200-litre ventral tanks, and when operating over Mali also carried 2 250 kg unguided bombs, plus the one internal 30mm cannon, in case they were called on for close air support missions. It is planned that 233rds elderly F-1CRs will be replaced by Rafales fitted with an advanced reconnaissance pod. The Rafale's range, maneuverability and combat load is far superior to the F-1CR that it replaces, e.g., after the Rafale's pod has taken photos, they can almost instantly be transmitted back to its baseline where the photos are needed, that has the downlink equipment. The French Air Force's last Mirage F-1 fighters were retired from operational service on 13 June 2014. 11 single-seat Mirage F1 CRs and 3 two-seat F1Bs will be transferred to storage, with 6 making a final appearance in a flypast during Bastille Day celebrations over Paris before eventual disposal. Ecuador received 16 F1 JAS and 2 F1 JAS between 1979 and 1980. The Ecuadorian Air Force's squadron of Mirage F1 JAS went into action in January to February 1981 during the brief Pachaca War between Ecuador and Peru, less than 2 years after the aircraft had been delivered to the FI. At the time, the Ecuadorians decided against directly challenging the Peruvian Air Force, whose Mirage 5 petaseconds and Sukhoi Su-22 were providing air cover to the Peruvian heliborne operations in the combat zone. Instead, the Mirages were kept at a distance performing combat air patrols on the fringes of the combat area, in case the border clashes gave way to open hostilities. Peruvian Sukhoi Su-22 were spotted once, and an air-to-air R-550 missile was launched, but failed to strike the Sukhoi. In 1995, during the SNECMA War, the Ecuadorian Mirages went back into action against Peru. This time, while the bulk of the squadron was kept back at Taura AFB, a small detachment of Mirage F1S and KFIRC-2S was deployed to undisclosed forward air bases to dissuade Peruvian attack aircraft from entering the combat zone. By this time, the planes had been upgraded with Israeli electronics and Python Mk-3 air-to-air missiles, usually mounted on the outer underwing pylons, and Matra of 550 Magic AAMs on wingtip launch rails. On the 10th of February 1995, 2 Mirage F1 JAS piloted by Maj. Raul Banderas and Captain Carlos Azcategui were directed over 5 targets approaching the combat zone in the Cenipa Valley. After making visual contact, the Mirages fired the missiles, claiming 2 Peruvian Su-22 megaseconds shot down, while a KFIR claimed a further A-37B Dragonfly. Sources in Peru, however, deny the claim that the Sukhoi Su-22 megaseconds were shot down by Ecuadorian aircraft, stating that one was shot down by Ecuadorian anti-aircraft artillery fire during a low-flying ground attack mission, while the second was lost because of an engine fire. Banderas served as commander of the Ecuadorian Air Force between May 2014 and February 2016, while Azcategui died in a training accident in 2002 at Salinas Air Base, in the Santa Elena province. In 2011, the Ecuadorian Mirage F1S still in service were retired after having flown more than 33,000 flight hours during the 32 years in active service, to be replaced by a squadron of Atlas Cheetah fighters brought to South Africa, Iraq during the Iran-Iraq War. Iraq's Mirage F1 EQs were used intensively for interception, ground attack and anti-shipping missions. In November 1981, an Iraqi Mirage F1 accounted for the first Iranian F-14 Tomcat to be shot down, followed by several more in the following months, giving the previously timid Iraqi Air Force new confidence in air-to-air combat engagements with the Iranians. According to research by journalist Tom Cooper, during the war 33 Iraqi Mirage F1s were shot down by Iranian F-14s and 2 were downed by Iranian F-4 Phantom II units. Iraqi F-1 EQs claimed at least 35 Iranian aircraft, mostly F-4S and Northrop F-5E Tiger IIs, but also several F-14 Tomcats. On September 14, 1983, two Turkish Air Force F-100F Super Sabre fighter jets of 182 filo at Mach penetrated Iraqi airspace. A Mirage F-1 EQ of the Iraqi Air Force intercepted the flight and fired a Super 530 F-1 missile at them. One of the Turkish fighter jets was shot down and crashed in Zakho Valley near the Turkish-Iraqi border. The plane's pilots reportedly survived the crash and returned to Turkey. The incident was not made public by either side, although some details surfaced in later years. The incident was revealed in 2012 by Turkish Defense Minister Ismet Yilmaz, in response to a parliamentary question by Republican People's Party MP Metin Lütfi Baydar in the aftermath of the downing of a Turkish F-4 Phantom II in Syria. In 2012, on May 17, 1987, a Mirage F-1 fired two Exocet missiles at the United States Navy warship Stark as it patrolled the Persian Gulf, killing 37 members of Stark's crew. The exact motive and orders of the pilot remain unclear, although Iraq later apologized for the attack, calling it a mistake and blaming Iran. In the opening minutes of the 1991 Persian Gulf War on 17 January 1991, an unarmed United States Air Force F-111, crewed by Captain James A. Denton and Captain Brent D. Brandon, scored a kill against an Iraqi Mirage F-1 EQ, which they managed to maneuver into the ground, making it the only F-111 to achieve an aerial victory over another aircraft. Coalition forces shot down several Iraqi F-1s during the Gulf War. 6 F-1EQs were shot down by USAF F-15 Eagles during the war. 2 F-1EQs preparing to carry out a Beluga cluster bomb attack on Saudi oil facilities were shot down by a Royal Saudi Air Force F-15C. Morocco 30 Mirage F-1CHs and 20 Mirage F-1EHs were ordered from Dassault by the Royal Moroccan Air Force in 1975, with the first deliveries taking place in 1978. They were engaged in combat as soon as 1979, against the forces of the Polisario Front operating in Western Sahara. The RMAF lost 7 Mirages shot down and 6 others crashed due to different mishaps. 3 Mirage pilots were killed and 3 were captured. South Africa began looking for a replacement for the Mirage III in 1971 and purchased a license to manufacture the Mirage F1 and its engine, the intention being to produce up to 100 Mirage F1s. This license was however cancelled because of the 1977 arms embargo. The SAF then bought 16 Mirage F1CZs and 32 Mirage F1AZs, which were quickly delivered by Dassault before the embargo was implemented, with deliveries starting in 1975. Both the F-1CZ and F-1AZ variants of the SAF saw action during operations in the border war. In November 1978, the first 5 F-1CZs were deployed to Southwest Africa, tasked with providing escort for reconnaissance flights over southern Angola. From 1980, these deployments as escort aircraft became regular. Due to teething problems with the F-1AZ, F-1CZs were initially assigned the strike role in southern Angola using Matra M155 rocket pods at 250 kg bombs. F-1CZs of 3 Squadron downed 2 Angolan MiG-21s in 1981 and 1982. On 6 November 1981, during Operation Daisy, Two F-1CZs were vectored by GCI to intercept two MiG-21s heading south. Major Johann Rankin shot down the wingman with cannon fire, as the missiles failed to lock onto the MiGs. On 5 October 1982, while escorting a Canberra F-12 squadron on a photo reconnaissance sortie, Major Rankin and his wingman engaged two MiG-21s on an intercept course. He fired two Magic AAMs at one of the MiGs, damaging the aircraft with the second missile. Rankin then attacked the second MiG and destroyed it with cannon fire. The first MiG was able to return to base, but sustained additional damage, making a belly landing. In May 1982, an Angolan Mi-8 helicopter that the SADF believed to be carrying senior officers was located and destroyed in the Kuvalai area. The helicopter was located with rotors running on the ground by a pair of F-1CZs and destroyed by 30mm cannon fire. Two F-1AZs of one squadron were lost over Angola. On 20 February 1988, while flying an interdiction sortie in F-1AZ 245 against a road convoy during Operation Hooper, Major Ed Every was shot down by Ansar 13 Go for Sam. F-1AZ 223 was lost almost a month later, on 19 March, when Captain Willy van Copenhagen flew into the ground while returning from a diversionary strike at night. A SAF board of inquiry was unable to determine the causes of the crash. Two F-1AZs and a F-1CZ were also damaged by enemy action, but were able to return to base. On 7 June 1980, while attacking SWAPO's Tobias Aneco training camp during Operation Skeptic, Major Franz Pretorius and Captain I.C. Duplessis were both hit by SAR-3 GO-SAMs. Duplessis' aircraft was hit in a fuel line and he had to perform a dead-stick landing at AF beyond Angua. Pretorius's aircraft sustained heavier damage and had to divert to Ruacano forward airstrip, where he landed with only the main undercarriage extended. Both aircraft were repaired and returned to service. During the last phase of the Bush War, 683 combat sorties were flown by the F-1AZs, and more than 100 SAMs were fired at them. On 27 September 1987, during Operation Modular, an attempt was mounted to intercept two Cuban FAR MiG-23MLs. Captain Arthur Pierce's F-1CZ was damaged by either an AA-7 Apex or AA-8 Afadam fired head-on by Major Alberto Le Rivas. The explosion destroyed the aircraft's drag chute and damaged the hydraulics. Pierce was able to recover two AFB Roundoos, but the aircraft overshot the runway. The impact with the rough terrain caused Pierce's ejection seat to fire. He failed to separate from the seat and suffered major spinal injuries. In February 1987, three F-1AZs fired several V-3B missiles at a group of MiG-23s without success. This was repeated again in February 1988 when a F-1AZ fired a missile at a MiG-23 and fired 30mm cannon, again without success. Various other unsuccessful attempts were made during the 1987-88 period. Apart from operations from Namibia in July 1981, a pilot of the Mozambican Air Force defected with his MiG-17. He flew from his base near Maputo, towards South Africa. Two F-1AZs returning from a training exercise intercepted the MiG-17. In March 1981, two F-1AZs intercepted a Zimbabwean Army Casa C-212 and forced it to land in South Africa after asserting that the aircraft had strayed into South African airspace. The SAF lost an additional 6 F-1AZs and 3 F-1CZs to various mishaps. F-1CZ-205 caught fire after landing and was repaired using the tail section of F-1CZ-206. Spain in June 1975. With tension growing with Morocco, Spain decided to strengthen its air force and bought 15 Mirage F1C that were allocated to Albacete. In mid-1976 there was still some tension with Morocco and Algerian and Libyan MiG-25 flights on the Mediterranean, which would lead the Spanish Air Force to purchase 10 more Mirage F1C in 2 years later order 48 Mirage F1C in F1E. They have also bought 12 F1EDA from Qatar. In Spanish service the F1CE was known as the C-14, the F1EE was the C-14B and the two-seater F1EDA as the C-14C. They served as Spain's primary air defense interceptors until they were superseded by Spain's F-18A Hornets. They served with ALA-11 in Menezes, ALA-14 in Albacete, and ALA-46 at Gando in the Canary Islands. In October 1996, Thomson CSF was awarded a FFR $700 million contract to upgrade 48 F-1CE single-seaters and 4 F-1EDA trainers to Mirage F-1M standard, as well as a service life extension. This improved the avionics and added anti-shipping capability with a modernized Serrano IVM radar and Exocet compatibility. By 2009 there were 38 F-1Ms in service with Esquadron 141 Patanes and Esquadron 142 Tigres of ALA-14, but they left Spanish service on the 23rd of June 2013 as Spain built up its fleet of Eurofighter Typhoon. In 2013 it was reported that Spain may sell 16 F-1Ms to Argentina, but it seems they now have the budget to buy new KFIRs instead. The deal went through and Argentina bought the Spanish Mirages in October 2013, but the deal was scrapped in March 2014 after pressure from the United Kingdom on Spain to not assist in FAA modernization over tensions between the countries over the Falkland Islands. Spanish Mirage F1 were deployed to Lithuania during NATO Baltic air policing from July 2006 to November 2006, and were scrambled twice to intercept undisclosed intruders. On the 20th of January 2009, 2 Spanish F-1s from the 14th Wing crashed near the base during a routine Spanish Air Force dogfight training mission, killing all 3 crew members. The wreckage of the 2 jets, including the remains of the aircrew, was found about 3 kilometers apart. The Spanish Air Force retired its fleet of Mirage F1 in 2013, replacing it with the Eurofighter Typhoon. Libya bought the Mirage F-01AD, F-1ADs, a specialized strike variant lacking the radar but having a retractable fuel probe mounted instead. Libyan Mirage F-1S participated in the war in Chad intensively and proved its worth during the Libyan campaigns in 1981 and 1983, but were not used later as the Air Force held them back for an eventual confrontation with the USA and its allies. When operating in Chad, Mirage F-1ADs were flown by Libyan, Pakistani and Palestinian pilots. Usual configuration consisted in 2 1.30-liter drop tanks and a pair of Beluga CBUs under the surfboard. From 1981 a detachment was deployed at Martinez Serra in southern Libya, and from 1983 they were regularly detached also to fire Largo in central northern Chad. together with Mirage V's Mirage F1s were instrumental in the huge success enjoyed during different campaigns against the Chadian troops in the early 1980s. Operating over the open and barren desert terrain, they caused heavy damage, making any larger troop movements very costly, for no losses in exchange. The Mirage F1 fleet saw action during the 2011 Libyan civil war. 2 Libyan aircraft landed in Malta on the 21st of February 2011 after they were ordered to bomb protesters in Benghazi. Both of the pilots claimed political asylum. Following the death of Muammar Gaddafi and end of the civil war, France and Libya formed an agreement in 2012 to modernize the Mirage F1 fleet and potentially purchase additional Mirage F1s formerly operated by the French Air Force.